I want to welcome everybody to this week's Generation Ziglar Community Call. I'm James McLam. For those of you who are not familiar with me and are not part of our friend, let's do some shout outs and see where everybody's from as we've started broadcasting live on Facebook and recording. It looks like we got about 17 to 20 and we'll have more come on. So unmute yourself and tell us where you're from today.
I'm from Tarboro, North Carolina.
Cokato, Minnesota.
I know there's more than 2 states. Come on, folks.
North Carolina.
Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Tennessee.
Another Klamath Falls.
Klamath Falls, Oregon.
Ooh, we got several people here from Oregon. Well, guys, I'm really excited about our call today and who we have sharing with us today. I'll ask for everyone to mute yourselves as you're going forward so that we have who exactly our speaker is today. Our guest with us this week is Dustin Galyon. Justin and I just met a few weeks ago. He was a mutual friend of ours referred him to me, and he and I got to talk and share. And one of the things that impressed me the most about Dustin was his passion, his energy, his desire to help youth find their purpose in life, and also to be able to motivate them to do something great with their purpose in life. Dustin is a 2-sport college coach, both in men's tennis and men's basketball. Men's golf and men's basketball. He speaks to thousands of youth and teams all over the United States. And Dustin, say hey to our group.
Hey guys, thanks so much for tuning in. Thanks for having me. I'm so excited for the opportunity to come and share today. Notice I said share, not speak at you or speak to you, but to share with you. So I'm hoping and praying and prep for our short time together today to be really fruitful, not just for you to get to hear my story, but for me to help you think about your narrative, where you're at now, where you ultimately want to be, where you want to go. So thanks for your time. I know time is precious, it's valuable, and it's finite. So thanks for giving me, Generation Ziglar, the opportunity to just love on you a little bit today and pour into you.
Dustin, if you wouldn't mind, just tell us a little bit of how you got to where you are in life, where you started out, and how you got the opportunities and stuff that God has blessed you with.
Yeah, well, thanks for that. I know that all of us have a lot of different gifts, skills. I always tell people all of us are tailor-made with gifts and talents. We don't all understand exactly what those are or where we're going to use those yet, but I'm a big believer that you're tailor-made, loaded with gifts and talents. For me, I was a high school senior in a one-stoplight town in the middle of South Central Kansas. And as a senior, I told everyone that I could tell, teachers, coaches, friends, I'm going to be a public motivational speaker, which I will tell you at that time wasn't a common thing. It was kind of a laughter thing, kind of funny. Like, who does that? Is that really a job? My senior year in my small town, we do an 8th grade promotion. So when the 8th graders are done, we do a kind of a mini graduation, and my superintendent came to me and said, Dustin, we want you to be the speaker for 8th grade promotion. I was like, absolutely. And I asked him how long I got. He said, well, how long do you need? And I said, how about an hour? He said, how about 20 minutes? And I said, how about okay? So I will tell you, I took about 90 minutes of material and I put it in a 20-minute segment. I talked as loud and fast and sweat as much as you could sweat in 20 minutes, and I still didn't get it all in. But that was my very first time to present to a really large group, and I was very fortunate. A speaker, a well-known national speaker, was in the audience that day, a man named Bill Cordes, does yoga whippy. Bill's a great friend, has been a mentor and just a friend of mine for over 20 years now. Bill Cordes heard me speak. And when I got through, he came down out of the stands and he said, young man, I hear you want to be a speaker. And I said, yes, I really want to be a public motivational speaker. And he said, well, that's what I do. And I was immediately magnetized, just drawn to him and said, how can I learn from you? Can I hang out with you? And a week later, I was in his house, upstairs on his loft, in his office, and we were talking all about speaking. And Bill Cordes said to me, hey, you're going to go to work for me right now. And I said, okay. And my first paid speaking event was a couple weeks later. I spoke to high school freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. I was a week out of graduation myself at an FBA conference up in Kansas City. It was phenomenal. I loved it, and continued to speak with Bill Cordis, and through that met a great network and connection of friends through Rhett Lubbock and Kelly Barnes, guys that I knew only as speakers, and now I call best friends and great business partners. So that's where it started for me. I'll fast forward due to time. When I got out of college, I wanted to impact people. I wanted to help people grow. I wanted to spread the message of Jesus Christ. I wanted to talk about motivation, effective communication, and the list goes on. And my heart was right. I wanted to do those things. But as I started into it, I'll be honest with you, I kind of lost my way. When I started into it, I was beginning to make some money. I'd go places, and when I got through, people wanted to take pictures, and I'd sign some autographs. And I quickly got into, my heartbeat was to help people, to serve people, and I immediately got into kind of a selfish and self-promotion state of being. I wrote down a couple of words for that. I became a consumer instead of a producer. I tried to please everybody, and in that, I really served nobody. My message was pretty vanilla, and I started to look at all these different speakers, and I thought, man, I need to be funny like this guy, or I need to be deep like this guy, or I need to, and so I tried to become the best version of all these other speakers, and in that, I think there was a time where I really lost my own voice, my own story. I got away from the gifts and talents that I've been created with, the story that I have to share. And I'll never forget, 27 and a half at 108 East Randall apartment. It's a little yellow apartment still here in town. I had an awesome resurrender in my life. And I don't know where you're at in your life, and wherever you're at, that's great. But for me, I hit my knees in the living room of 108 East Randall and prayed to the good Lord, just said, hey, I surrender. This has got to be about something bigger than me. I was unhappy and unfulfilled. And from that moment on, at 27 and a half, I will tell you that at that day at 108 East Randall, I found my why, my purpose. And the biggest question I have for you today, and in just a minute, I'm going to ask you to write it down, put it in your phone, think about it. But really, what is your why? What is your purpose? And for me, that I can take that further to, what are you willing to surrender to? And that's kind of a quasi thought, right? When we're thinking about being successful, building a business, building a brand, we don't often think about surrender when we think about gain. We don't think about surrender sometimes when we think about influence or power to other people. But for me, my real true influence, my true power, my legacy, my ability to serve other people, that started with an unbelievable surrender. And so I thought about that today. And if you ask me, Dustin James Galyon, why are you doing what you're doing? Why are you on this call today? Why do you speak to CTSO groups and give all school keynotes and teams and chapels and train businesses on customer service? Why do you do that? For me, very frankly, the why in my life is I want every person that I have the opportunity to encounter, I want there to be an opportunity for them to meet, to understand, to learn a little bit more about a real and risen Jesus. I want every person I have the opportunity to share with to understand that it's about something way greater than me. And ultimately, the why is that I believe that there was a guy named Jesus who came to this earth, fully human, fully man, without sin. And he went to a cross for you and I and everybody on this call and everybody who's breathing. And like every other man, he died. And unlike any other man, 3 days later, he rose again. And he showed himself to over 12 times to over 500 people. And he left us the gift of the Holy Spirit. And I want people to know that there's a real invitation to join in a relationship with a real and awesome Jesus. And it's free. You can't do anything but just confess and profess and invite him in your life. So when I understood my why, guys, I went from being a consumer to being a self-promoter to being, hey, I'm going to please everybody, to not having a voice. All of a sudden, I became a producer. And I started to serve people in a great way. And I started to look at all the platforms in my life and thought, how can I now serve this? Why? How can I be about this purpose. So first question I would ask you, just to think about, and James, maybe you want to lead through some of that, but what is your why for what you're doing and what you want to do? What really is the purpose or the why? And let me give a caveat to that. I think somewhere along the line, some of us aren't honest about our why. And I don't know if we've been told that why is wrong, or that why is not okay, or that why is not honorable. But I give you, for instance, I've got a great friend who has an unbelievable business mind. He sees something and he automatically thinks, how can I make it better? How can I streamline it? How can I make it more effective? And what that ends for him, how can I make more money at it? He's got a gift at that. And he fought his why of making things better for a long time. He didn't want anybody to know that, because he thought, hey, if I make a lot of money, or if I, flip businesses or turn things, that's going to look selfish or arrogant. And I'll never forget, he once said to me, I found out that wasn't horrible. That's a gift that I have. What I use it for, what I do it for, that's where the purpose comes into my mind. So some of you may be on this call and I say, what is your why? What is your purpose? I would ask you to think that, write that down, unabashed, right? Unmonitored, but what is your why right now? James, I don't know if we want to have a couple share that, or what is best format for that.
Well, we can do it. If there's anyone who would like to share, just unmute yourself and share. I'll put us on, let's see if I can put us on gallery here so we can see everyone, that I can see everyone a little bit better. Anyone want to share as they're going through?
So for me, I guess my why is partially twofold. On the bigger picture side of it, it's right along with what you're saying, Dustin, as far as to show forth the glory and goodness of God through Christ.
Amen.
But I think more of that real world application side of it is helping young people to see the potential that they're created for, the gifts and talents they were given, and to show them that it's actually possible to pursue it, to show other people who've done it and say, hey, you can actually take a step forward and move forward. So to me, that's what gets me excited when I have opportunities to share and speak, is to show the potential for what could be.
Well, Dustin, some of these young people, they're still in high school and they may be searching how do I find my why? What kind of tips can you help them, to maybe it's just a why in their life right now, in this season of my life. I'm a junior, I'm a senior. Hey, I've not been able to see my classmates now in several months, and I don't know when I may be able to see them again. How can I find what my purpose is in this season of life I am right now? Not even with my bigger purpose, but just this season of life right now. How do I find that why myself?
Well, I'm going to say this one direct, and I hope that if it offends you, I guess it'll offend you. I think most of you will be probably motivated, challenged by it. I wanted to, talk about why purpose today. The second one I want to talk about, and you just asked it, James, how do I really lock into that purpose here and now at where my feet are ground level? And I would tell you the greatest way for you to find your purpose right now, outside of prayer and discernment, is who you are surrounding yourself with. And I like this phrase better. I call it my ride or die group. That's fun. That sounds a little cooler than the who, but my ride or die group is, who are you surrounding yourself with? Who is giving accountability to you in your life? And so let me say this to you. When I say accountability, I'm usually talking about people who might be a little older, wiser, or grayer, or I'm talking about friends that there are no secrets, that they're going to be honest with you, and they're going to walk with you. And I'll give you a couple attributes of the people in my life, the accountability groups that I have, my ride or die group. There's a couple of things that they all have in common. They all love me. They all pray for me. And they're honest with me. And at the end of the day, they're for me. They want to see me be as successful as I can be. And so especially during this time where we're probably not out abundantly making new friends, relationships, I would ask you the question, who is that ride or die group in your life? Who is that accountability in your life? And here's the part that gets fun. If you're saying to me right now, Dustin, I just don't have that, I would tell you it's because you don't want to have it. I say the same thing about friendships. You want to have great friends, you got to be great friends. You want to have great teammates, you got to be a great teammate. And so I would tell you, for me in my life, from 18 to 27, I would have told you, well, I don't really have an accountability group. I don't really have people who are going to take time to invest and walk and mentor and love and be honest with me. The real reason that is I didn't want that. I wanted selfish me to do what I wanted to do. And if there was someone else that may say, hey, we care about you. Hey, we're locking into some of your gifts and talents. We maybe see this avenue for you. If it was in any way in opposition to what I wanted to do, I didn't want to hear it. So I would tell you, when we start thinking about what the man just said, who just talked about the gifts and the talents that you have, sometimes, and dare I say oftentimes, we need people who are going to love us, walk with us, pray with us, who are for us and be honest with us, to help us navigate what those things look like. I would have never got into coaching had I not listened to some people who were for me, that I trusted, who knew me, who had been walking with me, to say, hey, we think you really need to look at coaching. I played basketball my whole life. I loved it. It was my dream. Played college ball at Hesston College my first 2 years at a junior college, then played out in Virginia. And when that was done, I wasn't good enough to play professionally, wasn't good enough to play overseas. I thought basketball was done for me. And then when the coaching position came open, I didn't apply for it. And I had some mentors and accountability, some ride or die friends that said, hey, we think this matches your gift set. And I said, well, I'm going to be a speaker. I want to coach. I'm going to be a speaker. And they said, no, I think this would actually tie right into speaking. I think this would be about all the things you're talking about. And so at 22, I was one of the 24, excuse me. I was one of the youngest, I think second youngest NJCAA coaches hired in history. And so when I took that job, again, my heart was right. I wanted to walk and impact and disciple and encourage young men. But I didn't know how to do that quite yet. And so those same people were able to walk and grow with me, be honest with me. And that was special. So I would pose that question to you right now. Question one is, what is your why? Question two I would ask is, who are the accountability people in your life? Who are the people who can be real, raw, and transparent, who love you, but can be really honest with you, who can challenge you, and you accept that because you know they're for you? For me, there are several groups. I've got a men's prayer group that every Tuesday. There's not a story untold there. There's nothing, if you wrote the book of Dustin James Galyon, there's nothing those guys don't know. And because of that transparency, because of that realness and vulnerability, man, we can get down in a lot of ways. And we get to some really great things in our lives. I've got a friend that's an AD just down the road at Friends University, who used to be my boss, my pastor, my dad. We've got the guy who married my wife and I is able to do that. And then ultimately my wife. And guys that I speak with, Bill and Rhett and Kelly Barnes, guys that I can really get in and be honest with. So I would ask you, who is the who in your life? Who's your ride or die people? How are they helping you identify your gifts and your strengths and saying, no, yes, keep going that direction. Yes, you're fantastic at that. Sometimes we need other people to inform us of the gifts and talents that we have. The other side of that is, just so you know, those same people can often help us navigate from maybe some avenues that we're being pulled to that maybe are not our gift set. I would tell you this, when I went to college, I was a pre-med major for a week. I wanted to be a doctor when I came to college, and you say, why? I would say, I want to help people. Well, a weekend, I had a mentor say, hey, you're a smart young man. I don't think you're going to be a doctor. And so I want you to know, I think your gift set lies X, Y, Z, and I did a good thing and listened to him. So I think, James, to answer your question, how do we find that right now, the gifts, the talents? One, it's who we're with. The second one is how are you right now in your life? How are you taking the opportunities that you have or could have to go and try new things, to go and serve other people? You don't really know until you get in the thick of it. So especially at that 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, those high school, early college years, get involved. Go at it. I always tell people in the speaking world, when I give a keynote, am I worried about you being the best? Well, no, I'm not, because the reality is on every team, there's probably one player who's probably the best. There's probably one person in your class that probably has the highest ACT, highest GPA. You may be that person. That's awesome. I'm not worried if you are the best. I'm worried if you're bringing your best. And so when you bring your best to that activity, to that organization, to that group, man, you're going to find out a lot about yourself that I think will really help you navigate those gifts and talents. So bring your best, serve other people, surround yourself with others who are your ride and die group, who are going to be accountable to you, that you can be accountable to. But yeah, James, I think that's a huge part in finding your purpose right now.
Dustin, we have a question that has been typed in on the chat. Jace is wondering, what gives someone the it factor that is commonly found among prominent leaders and humans? What might that factor look like in your mind?
Yeah, well, I've said this a lot as a coach too, right? I mean, you've got players that you just say he's an alpha from day one. You don't know what you did other than get out of the way and let him be an alpha. I think the it factor, though, if I can be frank, I think the it factor comes from those that we have followed. Does that make sense? So I would tell you that the traits that I have as a leader come mostly from those leaders that I have followed previously. And so those who have had a great influence on me, now I'm using that with the combination of my gifts and talents to go influence others. I think the it factor is truly surrendering to the gifts and talents that you have in your voice, in your story, and using that for the benefit of others. That's what I think the it factor is. I find that people who have a wow or a big time it factor, who are quote alpha, are those who started by really trying to serve other people in a great way, and through that they become attractive or quote have that it factor. The other thing is the it factor I think is a variable. So if you said the it factor on stage, do I have the it factor on stage? Well, I don't know. I think to some probably. There's probably some that say, well, he's a little too loud, probably talks a little too fast, probably moves a little bit. His transitions maybe aren't as good. He's kind of a squirrel at times. I'm okay with that. That's who I am. It's not for everybody, but that can be an it factor. That doesn't mean we don't continue to try to improve. There's a difference there. We're always trying to improve as people, or in our craft or in our vocation, to be the best that we can be at it. But I think the it factor comes from a lot of hard work and a lot of smart work. But ultimately, if you said what makes the it factor in one word, I'd say confidence. Someone who has the it factor has supreme confidence in what they're saying, what they're doing, what they're performing. It's hard to have a real it factor and not be confident. Where does that confidence lie? Preparation. Where does that confidence lie? Not just preparation, but your ability to learn from other people, right? I would say for me personally, and I've said this to James when we first talked, hey, I'll be prayed up and prepped up for this time. So this isn't something he said, yeah, then didn't think about it until 10 minutes later. I mean, it's been a 2-week process of praying and prepping for what this time would be, and then getting out of the way and letting the Holy Spirit take over, letting you guys ask great questions, letting us be in community together. The other thing I would say, so number one, I would say that the confidence factor. I'd also say those we've surrounded ourselves around who have influenced us. But here's the last one, and I love this quote. It's not mine, but lean into the camera. Everybody lean in, because you're going to like this. Lean in for me. Just do it. I know it sounds weird. Lean in. I'm going to ask a question. I love this question. Do you know what fear fears? It's not my quote. I wish it was, because I'd put it on my book title if it was. Do you know what fear fears? Here's the answer. Fear fears community. Fear fears exactly what we're doing today. Fear wants to get you isolated and say, you know what? You're not talented enough. Or you know what? You've made some poor decisions in the past, and if people only knew the secrets that you have, no one would ask you to influence anybody, especially some maybe of our younger viewers online here today. Well, you've made a poor decision, or you had an embarrassing moment, or, you know, this relationship didn't go the way you wanted. Fear wants to isolate you and say, you know what? You're just not good enough. Just not talented enough. It's not it. Community wants to do what we're doing today. Community wants to get you and say, hey, We're going to love on you. We're going to mentor you. We're going to walk with you. We're going to provide real, transparent feedback out of love. And we're going to walk with you to make you better. We're going to educate you. Fears community. When I ask, who's that group? I'm not saying it because it's a catchphrase. I want you to live in anticipation, not anxiety. I want you to have the it factor with real confidence, because you're surrounded with people who have helped you really grow in what you've been called and created to be. So confidence, those you surround yourself with, and man, are you living in fear or are you living in anticipation? And I think that comes from community, which is why, James, Generation Ziglar, I'm so excited about. Not only because of who Zig Ziglar was and the foundation of his life and what he spoke and talked about and how he lived, but because now this lives on and we get people from all over the world today to get together and really be in community together. So I would tell you, those who have the it factor, they're not living in fear. I'll tell you that for sure. So I hope that answers that, James.
I have another question. Well, I have a couple more questions. Isaiah wants to know, with all the distractions that face us as young people, what is the best way for us to stay motivated to keep moving towards our why?
Yeah. Well, I'm a big addition by subtraction guy, right? And I'm also a big margins of difference. That's a business word of what makes you special and different. And so I would tell you that for some of you, if your goal in life is to see how many likes I can have on that social media piece, I would say get ready for a long life. You're going to be exhausted. I would also tell you the question, how do I keep motivated towards that goal? Well, one, I think you got to clearly state what that is, what that purpose is. The other thing that you have to do is you got to understand what's the benefit of really pursuing that. i.e., if it was all about money, if it was only about making money for me, I don't know if I'd have done the call today. I could be making calls and sending out emails to other people that I'm hoping to speak to this fall, trying to get contracts done, the biggest settings, the most people in the audience, and the biggest paycheck. I'm not saying that it's wrong to feed your family. I'm not saying it's wrong to be abundantly blessed financially. I'm not saying any of that. I hope people are abundantly blessed financially, and I hope they do great things with it. But the reason that you've got, how do you stay focused? I think addition by subtraction. So the person who wrote the question is right. There is a lot of things in the way. There are a lot of distractions. You've got to decide, what things am I going to pay attention to? What things are I'm going to give to my time? What is your strategy? The strategy is money, time, and manpower. What are you going to put your strategy, your time, and effort in? The other stuff you can't worry about. That's hard. It's hard not to worry about some of the other things that are out there, but you've got to do that. The other piece of that I would say is this. I have a great friend, Wayne Simeon. Wayne Simeon was a KU Hall of Famer in basketball, was an NBA first-round draft pick, won a world championship with the Miami Heat. Wayne Simeon's a great man, a great Christian. He came and spoke to our teams a couple different times. Wayne tells me about a dream he had, that his mother has made his favorite dish, and I believe it was jambalaya. And he said, my mom's got it made with cornbread on the side. And he said, I'm walking home from school in this dream, and my mom's got my favorite meal prepped and ready. And on the way home, there's a carnival, there's a fair going on. And I stop here to have a snack, and I stop over here and get some nachos, and I stop over here and get this. And by the time I get home, the meal that's been prepared just for me, tailor-made for me, I'm not even hungry. I'm full from all the distraction on the way. And now when it's time to have the meal that's been prepared for me, I'm not even hungry. I would ask you, what is that meal prepared look like for you? What are the distractions in the way? How do you navigate that? I would tell you right now, at 30, almost 37, be 37 in a week, I am not strong enough to do that on my own. And dare I say, you weren't created to do life on your own. So it goes back to, who are these people in your life that are helping you navigate to say, hey, man, don't worry about that stuff. Get away from that distraction. And I think the other one, the plus minus is, where are you spending your time? I'm not saying that hopping online and browsing. I'm not saying watching Netflix now and then. I'm not saying those things are wrong. But I'm saying, what amount of your time is spent there? And then does that match the goals that you have? If you're telling me, hey, I'm trying to do great things, I'm trying to achieve this, but by my work ethic on that is somewhere here, then I would tell you need to reassess your goals. And as a coach, I would tell you, when you find a group of young people or a young person that wants to do that, there's no doubt about it. You don't have to question whether they're navigating that. So I'd say stay away from the distraction. Put yourself in places where you can be clean, powerful, and positive. Keep that group tight, your ride or die group, and ask the good questions. Is what I'm doing today ultimately going to help me to where I want to go? I think that's a pretty good black and white answer to it. What else?
Gretchen typed in a question. She says, as a coach, how would you build trust and bond with a team in a virtual world situation they are in right now?
Woo! Yeah, great question. I will tell you this. I always say this when I speak. I don't know everybody's business, but I know that everybody's business is the success of that is going to be built on the relationships that you have, right? So I don't know what you want to go into. I don't know what if you want to be a speaker, a pastor, a doctor, a constructor. I don't know any of that. I know this. Regardless of what that is, if you're going to be the best at it, then you're going to be great at building relationships, because all those things at the end of the day are about relationships. For a team, at a certain level, do you have to have a certain talent level to be successful? I believe you do. But I believe that you can make up for a lot of that talent based on the relationships, the hard work, the common goal that you have. So the question, how do I build relationships virtually? One, I think you got to state it. Hey, this is tough. Hey, I'd rather be face-to-face, hand-in-hand, side-by-side with you on the grind in this sport, in this workout as a team, but it's not happening. So a couple different things I would say. Communicate early and often. Be in communication with each other early and often. Doesn't have to be for huge blocks at a time, but check in early and often as a team in those same things, accountability. Have clear goals, have clear steps to those goals. The last one, which I think is huge, is I would ask, what type of relationship do you want to be in? If you want to be in a long-term friendship, something that's far greater than something topical, then I would say you've got to find ways and navigate to go deeper as far as your narrative, the victories, the failures, the temptations, the goals, the aspirations you have. When you get there, now you start to build friendships. Now you start to build real relationships of, wait a minute, that person has shared part of their story that's pretty personal to them. They've been real raw and vulnerable. They've opened up. I'm going to honor that by, one, keeping that within our team and allowing that person to share their story and them only. But now I'm going to invest in them. I'm going to ask great questions of what they've learned. I'm going to ask them great questions. Hey, going through that, having that experience, good, bad, in between, how can that help our team? Last part, I would say, teams are all about adding value. So on a basketball team, you got 15 people on a roster. In college, usually 12. Usually all 12 don't play, and they definitely don't play the same amount of minutes. So as you enter a team, again, I used that word earlier, I would challenge you not to enter with a consumer. What can I get? What can I take from it? To a producer, what can I give? How can I serve? How can I add value to this team before I ever step on the floor of the court, the field? How do I add value to this? I will tell you this, and I say it all the time. If I told you you could be a part of a team and you were going to play X amount of minutes, but outside of that, you were going to bring no value to that team. You weren't going to be a great teammate. You weren't going to be a great supporter. You weren't going to be someone who was willing to go to work every day. Or I could offer you the same amount of minutes, but you could do all those things. Which one would have a better experience? Well, it's definitely the one that's invested in all the things. So I would tell you as an athlete, at the end of the day, you're not going to ultimately get to pick your playing time. Maybe in a place like track or golf or some of those things, you have maybe a little bit more ownership on your score or your time. But you can control a ton of other variables that will, at the end of the day, really attribute to your success, the fun, the experience that you have. Control the variables you can in this virtual world. Be honest, real, raw, transparent. Have someone lead you through that and give every person on that team an opportunity to share. Really good question. Yeah, thanks for that.
Caroline's wanting to know from you personally, what drove you to want to become a speaker? A lot of these young people that are on here today have opportunities to stand up and lead others, either as a speaker or facilitator. And some of them just want the opportunity to be that kind of light. So what drove you personally to do that? I think they're looking for something they can take away as well.
Yeah, twofold. one thing that drove me to it is I had a lot of people say, "Hey, man, you're a great speaker." Right? I was told that was spoken to me. My grandmother always said he's going to be a rock star or a pastor. So I had people identifying some gifts that I had and that were saying, you should do this. Okay. Second part of that was I took the opportunities to look at different platforms where I could use those gifts. So for instance, when I was asked to speak at the 8th grade promotion, I didn't think twice that, hey, I may get up there and forget everything. I may get up there and fumble around and stumble. I may have 60 minutes of material and talk way too fast and sweat the whole time, and 20 minutes later leave us breathless. I didn't think about any of those things. I just thought about there's an opportunity to do something I love, and I'm being asked to do it. I'm going to go and I'm going to give it my all, and I'm going to learn from it. And I'm going to keep stepping forward in that. Guys, I remember my very first faculty staff in service. I was 19 years old, and I'm telling you, this is a funny story. 20 years later, I went back to that high school to do a faculty in service at a small school. So there are a lot of those teachers and people in leadership that were still there. And I started that and said, how many of you remember 20 years ago when I was there? Some people raised their hand, and so we had a good laugh. And I had 60 minutes that day, got through, and when I got through, several of the people who had been there before said, man, the energy, the intensity is the same, but the production, the application, the take home is so much better. Thank you so much. Well, I would hope 20 years into it, I've gotten better, right? But you ask the question, how do I get there? You've got to take opportunities without fear and step up and get after it, right? You've got to step out and say, hey, I've got an opportunity. I'm going to step into that to do it. So one of the reasons people told me, hey, you're good at this. The other thing was I surrounded myself with people who I thought were great at it, and I tried to learn from them. Now, I didn't try to make money from them. I didn't try and steal their life. I just tried to learn from them. Came at them with an earnest heart to say, this guy, this girl, they're really good at it. How can I learn from them? How can I take some tips away from them and use it? So that's how I got into it. The second part of that, though, now at my age and stage at 37, I would even say this at 27 and a half. I always loved the opportunity to speak, but now I understand the responsibility to speak. And I think a lot of you may say, hey, there's an opportunity to go out there and to share and to speak. That's awesome. The second part of that is, do you understand the responsibility that you have when you take the stage or when you take people's time, when you pour into them, when you share with them? It's not just an opportunity, it's a responsibility. How have you prepped for that? How have you worked at that? Are you giving a message where people can get behind? Is your message, is how you present that message? Is it match the heartbeat of what you want to say? So again, I hope that answers that. But I would tell all of you at this stage, unless you're at the professional level, the number one thing that you're trying to find right now are ways to serve other people and really happy clients, right? You want to go and speak, and you want to do a great job, impact as many people as you can, and then you want to build that relationship to continue to do that. And I think that's huge. But James, I'm going to say one other thing to that. I don't know if everybody on this call is going to be a public speaker. Maybe. You may all be, and that's awesome. I do believe that everybody on this call has got the opportunity to impact other people in a great way. In your lunchrooms, your classrooms, your locker rooms, your hallways, in your area of work, in your organizations. I don't know if we're all going to be speakers, but I tell you, I believe we can all have an unbelievable impact in the community that we're in right now. I would tell you, don't shortchange that. i.e., I'm a coach. Man, I've got a platform to impact. Is that public speaking? Well, no, it's coaching. But man, the impact is incredible. I'm a photographer. How is being a wedding photographer 20 times a year now, how does that really impact people? Are you kidding me? It's their most special day, and they've invited you to capture it. And your energy, effort, ability to listen, your willingness to serve and over-deliver, those are all kingdom principles that I want to be about. As a speaker, is every event I do, is every event a Christian event? No, I'm in the public sector a ton. Can I still give a message that I believe in, that I think can impact people in a great way? Absolutely. And then the other platforms I have, and it sounds weird to call them a platform, but number one, I'm a husband. Number two, I'm a daddy. And all the other things are a distant miles away, that if I'm not impacting my wife by how I serve her, how I treat her, how I communicate with her, and if I'm not impacting the two little miracles I have at home, Jackson James Galyon 3.5 and Savannah Grace, by being present with them and pouring into them, then the other stuff's not going to be near as good as it can be. So I would tell you again, what are platforms and areas where you can go do that? Man, get on it. Get on it. Good question. Really good question.
I'm really glad you hit upon the fact that they can still be that difference maker and have that opportunity, even if they're not on a platform, because a lot of these young people are going to be leaders in their schools. They're going to be leaders in community, their churches, maybe even in their family. And I love what you said here. You have the opportunity, but you also have the responsibility. Did you have the prep and the work and the message with it? That'll speak right there. That's quotable, people. I need to hashtag that and let me see that on some Instagram and Twitter pages going this week, because that was really good. What you shared on there. Do we have anyone else that has have questions going forward? Anybody want to unmute themselves and ask a question? Can't believe.
James, while we're waiting, I'll say one thing, as maybe some people are thinking about those. Guys, I don't know about you. I don't know your personality, but I will tell you, I come from a blue-collar, real hard-working family. Okay, I always tell people I come from the wealthiest household in America. My folks made no money, but, I mean, we were filthy wealthy with love and discipline and prayer and encouragement. My mom and dad are barbers by day. There were two things you were going to do in our household. You're going to love Jesus. You're going to go to college. That was ingrained in us. My sister, I have two older sisters I call heroes and best friends. And when my sister went to college, she chose in Kansas the most expensive private school at that time that had her major, because they were the best at it. My folks said, you dream it, we'll make it happen. So my sister went to college the next day. My parents were barbers by day and janitors at night. And my other sister and I helped. So I always tell you, if there's not a team to coach or a place to speak, don't worry about me. I can strip and wax and burnish and mop a floor like you wouldn't believe. My folks did that for almost 20 years, every day but Christmas, and never complained, never said, hey, you kids owe us, or they just said a couple different things that I still remember every morning I wake up. Number one, they said, go out and outwork everybody. Work as hard as you can, outwork everybody. Number two, they said, do the best you can. That'll be good enough for us. And three, they always said, be grateful for the opportunities that you have. I want to tell you that at 30, almost 37, that's the first thing I think of every morning I wake up, is that same thing my folks said every day before we go to school, every morning before we left the house. I will tell you, I would add to those three for my own narrative and tell you that I worked really, really hard as a youngster. I didn't always work smart. And so as you're finding that purpose, as you're finding that why, as you're surrounding yourself with your ride or die, your people are going to be real, raw, transparent, that are for you. They're going to walk with you. I would encourage you, work hard, but work smart. And that's hard for me, because I'm a ready, shoot, aim guy sometimes, right? And so I need to step back every once in a while and say, okay, take a deep breath. How do I work smart in this way? How can I take a deep breath and work smart as well as working hard to better achieve the goals that I want? And honestly, probably quicker achieve those goals. So, James, I wanted to throw that out because I have been so guilty of that. The other model that I would say in work hard and work smart is, and James, I said this to you, I don't know if I've heard this. I probably have, so I won't take quotes for it. But I've always said those who are in the business of serving other people will always be in business. Those who are in the business that you're going to serve other people, you're always going to be in business. And I don't care what vocation that is. But when you're into the business of really serving people, trust me, you'll be busy for life. And I don't care what age, what stage, how gray, how young you are, you'll find that right away. If you want to serve people, you'll be plenty busy doing that. So just something to think about as you think about your purpose and the people you want to surround yourself with.
There's another hashtag quote, guys. You need to get these down, and you need to put these out. You need to put them on your wall, being in the business. Anyone else have a question or a comment as we get close to the end here? Anyone from our group? Just unmute yourself and jump right on in.
I guess I have a question.
Yes.
So I have a virtual internship this summer. I just found out about it. It's a short internship with John Deere, and I'm getting used to the whole Zoom video. But do you have any tips on how to communicate to employers or people that obviously are very important that we're going to meet during this time? Since we're just meeting virtually, over the phone and via Zoom.
Yeah.
Dustin, let me set up. This young lady here is the admin of a group on Facebook that has about 9,000 members?
Yeah, probably about that many.
That are young people from across the nation, and she has an ability to impact them positively through that group and the messages that they have daily, which is something that all of us has that. So I actually want to come and find out how she got into that sometime. But yeah, she has that as well. I wanted to set that up for her.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. And what's your name again?
Nicole.
Nicole, great question. Hey, I appreciate thinking about how do we connect better? How do we become more impressive, more personal, more relational during this time of Zoom as you're going to meet with other business professionals? The first thing that comes to my mind is control the variables that you can control. So, and I mean this, leadership experts, when I train business professionals on customer service, I don't use the word first encounter or first impression or second impression, because I think the word first encounter or first impression is arrogant. Because if it's not a good first encounter or first impression, you don't get a second impression or second encounter. So when I train customer service and businesses, I talk about only encounters. And I talk about those only encounters in the first 30 seconds. I don't care if it's online or in person. We begin to foster, think, and create ideas and thoughts about the other person that we're meeting with, that we're looking at on the other end of that handshake or on the other end of that computer screen. So I start with control the variables. What are variables that you can control in every Zoom or virtual meeting? It's going to sound however it sounds, but it's real. Number one, what's your presentation like? Did you just roll out of bed? Today, I didn't want to overdress for this. I thought a suit and tie is a little much. I didn't want to underdress with maybe just a regular polo, so I went sport jacket and button-down shirt. It's not by chance. I'm prepped for our time together. I want this time to add value, and when you log in and see me today, if I'm in my PJs and my hair's going this way and I look like I haven't shaved, hey, the reality is your brain starts to formulate and create already, good, bad, right, or wrong. How intently am I going to listen to this guy? So number one, the variable of presentation, right? How are you coming to the meeting just like you were meeting in person? Number two, what's that surrounding look like? Find a blank wall. Find something in the background. Create a background with the green screen. But again, another variable, if there's commotion and stuff going on, hey, that doesn't to me look like you've prepped for this meeting. If that relationship is worth it to you, and we know relationships, again, they're the foundation of all businesses, I want to do everything I can to eliminate any variable that isn't positive in that. Another one that I would say that's huge, have a bank of questions. Spend time thinking about the person on the other end of the screen and how you can ask them questions to share their story, their narrative, their success. So i.e., if I had all afternoon, trust me, I would go one by one and just say, hey, tell me your story. Tell me about you. Tell me some of the strengths and weaknesses you have. Tell me some of the things that you've learned. And I guarantee I'd have 1, 2, 3, 30 nuggets of wisdom or info that I could do. So how are you prepared in asking questions? And it's okay to say, hey, I prepped some questions today for us. Here's a great one. And I always want to do it as a coach, as a presenter, a basic business model. How are you going to follow up with that person when you're done? How do most people follow up? Well, they probably send a timely email, right? Well, I'm not saying that's not good, but I would say that that's just adequate. And in my world of business, I would tell you that adequate is failing. I would tell you that adequate is failing. So do you need to send a follow-up email afterwards? Yes, you do. But more than that, how can you take another step? Handwritten notes take a lot of time. I know it's a different generation, but there's something incredibly personal about a handwritten note. Do you know that person you've talked to? Did they say something that maybe you jotted down a note? For instance, you just said John Deere. I've got several friends that work at John Deere. I spoke at a conference not too long ago up in Northwest Kansas, who's a guy who's a big dealer for John Deere. So I would tell you, when we get off this, hey, shoot me an email. I'll connect you with Brad. I don't know where we'll go, but if I can be an outlet for you, I'd love to do that. That's different than getting on the call and having 35, 40 minutes and then getting off the call. How do you prep for that meeting? And not in a creeper way, right? But how do you know? When James contacted me, when we got off the phone, I immediately went to the website. I looked him up on Facebook. I tried to follow all this stuff. I wanted to know more of the story, not so that I could manipulate, but so I could better serve our time together and then our relationship. So I love to say it like this. What's your pregame, right? What are you doing before that? Your pregame should include scouting. Do you know who you're talking to? Do you know what you're talking about? The variables of presentation. Do you look the part? Are you prepped up for it? Do you have good questions ready? Have you worked on the interaction? Guys, my very first Zoom meeting this year, I said 1,000 times. Now, most people didn't catch it, but I watched the first 3 minutes and I was so bummed. I was like, holy cow. How did I say that tagline? How did I say that? And so I'm a pro speaker. I speak to thousands every year. I've spent time over the last 2 months on virtual presentation, pausing, not saying being a good listener, trying to make sure that throughout this today, I say, hey, what questions do you guys have? So there's some very big application skills you can do that. And then what's your follow-up, which I call X factors? What are you going to do after that call, after that presentation to say, you know what? Something different about that one. Boy, she's she's ahead of her time from a maturity standpoint. She's detailed. She followed up. She's not common, right? You're not a commodity, man. You're special. There's a demand for people who want to do that. So I would take it that the last part that I would say, and I think it's important, but to accent your thankfulness for people meeting and saying, hey, I know it's not easy. I know it's online, but how can you convey a genuineness to say thank you? And that's important. Again, I don't say that in a manipulation way. I say that in those are good relationships. Those are things we want to do with people we love. We want to make them feel special. We want to go above and beyond the status quo to say, I value you. Thank you. And then the last one, and this is huge, I would end the call by saying, hey, is there any way I can help or serve you moving forward? A lot of people initially might say no. Some may say absolutely. But if you follow up with that again and say, hey, thanks so much for your time. Again, if there's any way that I can help serve you moving forward, please let me know. I'd love to dialogue about opportunities that you have. You can use that line right there because I do it a lot with clients that I care about and want to be involved with. So that is a great question. Hope that answered it.
Anyone else have anything before we close? All right, Dustin, how can they get in touch with you? How can they connect with you?
Let's start with this. Let's start with my email, which is dustin@dustingalyon.com. I'm going to spell it just to make sure. So it's D-U-S-T-I-N. So Dustin, and then Dustin, D-U-S-T-I-N, and then Galyon. Here's how you spell Galyon. G-A-L-Y-O-N. So DustinGalyon.com. So Dustin@DustinGalyon.com. Here's what I will tell you. Feel happy, feel welcome, feel invited to email me with any questions, ways I can help you, ways I can serve you, things that come up. I told James this when we first talked. Pre-COVID. This is late January, early February, so we're not really aware any of this is going on. I told my wife, I said, my wife's name's Marissa, I call her Riz. I said, Riz, I think we're getting ready to really step into a season of service. I said, I don't know what that means, but I think we're going to be really serving a lot of people. And we felt really prayerful about that. We have really felt that upon us. And so I'm telling you, 27 and a half, I had a resurrender in my life to the good Lord. and that has given me my purpose, my why. It's changed who I surround myself with, but it's also given me not only the opportunity, but responsibility. I have a responsibility to serve people. So if I can help serve you, and that may mean a conversation, that may mean an email, that may mean a speaking engagement, that may mean us just connecting about a team that you're on, or an idea, or goal setting. That may mean, hey, I don't know if I'm the best at that, but I know some people who are, and me connecting you with others. But feel welcome to email. And then from there, as that conversation goes, if there's a time that we need to hop on a phone call or Zoom, again, we are excited to serve. So yeah, feel welcome to reach out. I'd love to connect further.
Well, Dustin, we want to thank you. That was quotable too, guys, because you relate it to the beginning of the call to the end. What is your purpose? How do you find your purpose? You have a responsibility to serve people. I think we can wrap it up all with that. So thanks, everyone, for joining on the call. We'll be back next week again. If you want to a replay of this, you can go to our Facebook page. It'll be up there for a while. Or you can go to GenerationZVideos.com for a direct link to our YouTube channel. This recording will be up on YouTube probably Monday or Tuesday, but you can go on there now and find all the previous recordings. Plus, you'll start to see what we're calling quick clips, which are 5-minute segments, 4-minute segments of questions that each of our guests have said instead of the entire hour program. You can get it in biteable size. So look forward to seeing everyone. Everyone have a good day and a good rest of your week. Bye, guys.
Blessings. Thanks.
Oh, everybody
Thanks.
wave. Everybody wave there. Everybody get on the gallery and wave. So I got a nice wave. So, Nicole, you're not waving. I can see you. There you go. There you go. There you go, Wesley. Thank you. All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, James.
Thanks.